Hello, my name is Floris Vandenberg. I just published a book. It's called Green Liberalism. And here in this video I will go a little deeper about the theory of green liberalism and how it is different from classical liberalism. Green liberalism is the expansion of the moral circle from humans only to include non-human animals and future generations as well. This is called scientistic liberalism. Sentience means all beings that are able to suffer, and they are all included in the moral circle. Liberalism has two dimensions. The basics of liberalism is the no harm principle, which means everything is allowed as long as you do not harm others. That's the principle established by John Stuart Mill in 1859 in his book On Liberty. The big argument for why this is universally applicable is that you cannot want yourself to be in the person that is being harmed. You cannot want yourself to be the victim. That is the basic of liberalism, and that is why it is a universal moral principle. Liberalism has two dimensions. So the basics of liberalism is individual freedom, and that's very important to notice that it's about individual freedom and not collective freedom. So it is individual freedom. So let's say an individual. So here we have individual. And freedom has two dimensions. And that's something which is often forgotten nowadays, that there is a negative freedom and positive freedom. Negative freedom means that you have the freedom to do with your life what you want, not to be interfered with others. So that means that the role of the government is to assure your individual freedom. That's why we need police and army and a judicial system, so that you are safe to live your own life and have your own property. So that's an important dimension of liberalism. Positive freedom, on the other hand, goes much further. That means that if you really want to do something with your life, if you really want to develop your freedom and also to include human flourishing, so that you can become the best version of yourself, then you also need education, cultural institutions, infrastructure, healthcare, all kind of institutions. So otherwise, if there wouldn't be any positive freedom in society, then freedom would be empty. It wouldn't mean anything at all, unless you happen to be very wealthy, and then there are private institutions. So positive freedom means that someone, and usually it's the state, has to provide facilities and institutions for everyone to really do something with your freedom. And that if you have, for example, talents for music, but there is no institution to do something with it, then you cannot really flourish. So that means that the state should also create facilities for humans to flourish. And if liberalism is interpreted as only applying to negative freedom, then you end up with what is called libertarianism. Libertarianism, actually, so that is a liberalism which only focuses on negative freedom. I think, however, that is an empty form of liberalism, because it doesn't grant you real liberalism. Because, as I said, if you happen to be your parents are not very rich, then you have no possibility to develop in your life, to get a good education, to have healthcare and housing facilities. So I think that that liberalism, and especially green liberalism, should pay full attention to both sides of freedom, which means that we should have institutions which help to develop individuals, and indeed in order to have money for that we need taxation. And libertarians are very much opposed to taxation, but I think that the only way to finance positive freedom is by way of taxation. So a green liberal society would pay a lot of attention to both negative and positive freedom. So this is part of the theory of green liberalism, which emphasizes that we should pay attention to both negative and positive freedom.